All right, good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of Commissioner Sherling, I am going to call this afternoon's meeting of the Diversion Authority Land Management Committee to order for November 13th. And with that, we will start with a roll call, please.
Mrs. Sherling, Mr. Stamnus.
Here.
Ms. Derrick, Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Borboom.
Here.
Mr. Hendrickson. Mr. Gust. Mr. Breitling. Yes. Ms. Maggio. Ms. Turnberg. Mr. Zimmerman.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. We'll move to item number 2, approval of minutes from October 23rd.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Item number 3 will be the approval of the order of agenda. And I think what we want to do there with item number 5, we'll put them all together unless somebody has a issue with one of them that they'd want to take that off. So I think that's what you'd prefer, Jody? Okay. Any additions to the agenda? Thank you, Jake. And we have a second? Second, okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. We'll move into item number 4, OIN 9405, sale of excess land. Jody.
Sorry. Good afternoon. So the first item on here is for OIN 9405. It is 1.43 acres. The recommended total sale price is for $8,500. That does equal to $6,000 an acre. On page 11 of your packet, I'll just move to there really quick. The reason for a slight reduction in the sale price is these are the current setbacks that Pleasant Township has in place. You can see the entire parcel is within a setback. So the 350-foot setback means there can't be any structures, and then the 450 setback means that there can't be any residential structures within that. So really the only kind of viable for this would be if there was an outbuilding, you'd have to clear all these trees, or if somebody's going to use this for tillable land. This parcel has recently been fully mitigated. They just completed the seeding of it. So all the structures are removed. It is coming onto a JT Lawn Services contract. So it mowed and weed in the next year. Anticipated costs for that would be anywhere between $1,800 and $2,500 per year to go ahead and move forward with that. So at this time, we don't have any other recommended use for this because we can't relocate any of our residents out there. We are recommending that it go up for sale. Open to any questions, and I can also pull it up on the web map if you'd like to see it in proximity to the project.
Any questions of Jody? All right, we're looking for a motion to put that up for sale.
That's correct.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
I'll second.
Second, okay, thank you, Brenda. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Borboom.
Yes.
Mr. Gust.
Yes.
Mr. Breitling.
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you. Motion carried. All right, move on to item number 5, excess land recommendation for channel remnants.
So all of these remnants are going to be northeast of the channel, and I'm going to go ahead and pull one of these up for you so you can see what I'm talking about. So all the parcels that we'll be discussing this afternoon, like I said, are going to be northeast. This is I-29 right here. Here's the channel right here. And we're going to be going through all of these remnant parcels that are just sitting to the exterior of the project right away. The project construction is completed as far as I'm concerned in this area. They are completing their seeding, and we're working on releasing all of these areas that are crosshatched. That means there's a TCE or temporary construction easement on that area. So at this point in time, we no longer need to hold these kind of in our purview. I do not get requests during starting my negotiations with property owners for land exchanges with property in this area, primarily because we've moved pretty far south and we're just in the upstream mitigation area. So this would be quite a hike up there for property owners to be able to come up here and continue to farm. So I have packaged these all together. I'll just kind of read a couple of them off, and then if you have questions, we can step through all of that. So IN 546, that is 54.3 acres. Proposed sale price is $460,000. That equals $8,500 an acre. 561, that is on page 38 of your packet. That is 55.17 acres. Total proposed sale price is $350,000. That is for $7,500 for the tillable and $1,000 what we would call wet woodland grass, but really it's a drainage swale that goes through that. The reason for the reduction in price is a little bit more challenging to get out there, and there's a pretty big swale that goes through it. Oyens 530Y and 2372Y, that's on page 15 of your packet. That is 30.29 acres for a total sale price of $260,000. That's $8,500 an acre. The 2366Y, 2367Y, and 8852Y, that's on page 45 of your packet. That's 90.54 acres. That's $767,000. That's $8,500 an acre. And then there is the 2368Y, that's on page 31 of your packet. That's 119.57 acres for a total sale price of $899,000. That would be $8,500 for the tillable acreage and $5,000 for the wet woodland grass. So again, I can point out the specific ones on here, or I'm open to answering any questions that you might have about the individual parcels. But again, we're just recommending the sale of the parcels that would be kind of north, east of I-29 and abutting the project channel. Currently, I should also add, currently we are leasing these out, and we will request that these be leased out through the Cass County Joint Board. Whoever purchases this property would assume that lease once they purchase it. If none of these parcels go up for sale, I will not, and they go into what we call the public sale phase, I have talked to Pfeiffer's. We are prepared to do an auction probably at the end of April on any of these parcels, and then any other parcels that we still have up for public sale that haven't been purchased by, going through the excess policy. So because these are larger chunks of tillable land in the past, what we've been really recommending are the remnant rural residential lots that tend to be 1 to 6 acres. It's going to take quite a bit to get those back into a tillable state. Because these have always been tillable, I will put them up for a public auction versus what we call a public sale on our excess land. So.
All right, any questions? Looking at putting all of these up for sale.
That is correct.
What's the board's wishes?
Move approval.
Thank you, Bob.
Second.
Chuck. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Stamnes,
Yes.
Ms. Derrick,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Borboom,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Yes.
Mr. Gust, Mr. Breitling, and Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you. That motion carried. We'll move on to item number 6, and today is for information purposes.
Yes, it's for information and discussion, so looking for a little bit of guidance from the Lands Committee as we proceed forward on this one. This is relative to the rail corridor that runs through Horace. So we've put up 3 sections for sale, and let me pull that up for you. So just as a review, the board has authorized us to move forward with the sale of the portions of the corridor that are in this black hatch. So those sales are pending. All the neighboring property owners have agreed to purchasing the rail corridor at the sale price of 50 cents per square foot. We're just having to do some platting and deeding, and it's going to take us a long time to kind of get through this process. But Eric at A2S and then Luke Andrew at Onstitwichell are working out this, and our goal is to have this closed up by April of 2025. The board has also authorized us to move forward with the sale of portion A. This is where the grain elevator is at. And then this is portion B. So this kind of runs a little bit more through town. what we're talking about today, and I'm not seeking authorization for sale, is really these portions C and D. So you can see this is the only remaining portion that we have not authorized or requested authorization for sale. So if you had time to look at your packet, what we're contemplating, and it's going to be on page 61 of your packet if you're following that, again, is looking at Horace has presented an opportunity to us where they would either like to purchase in fee a 50-foot swath kind of going down the middle of this corridor for a sanitary sewer line. And if they can't get it in a fee acquisition, they would like a permanent easement for that. And so in your packet, you can see what we would probably recommend then is going ahead and putting that 50-foot right down the middle of that corridor so that, you know, we can still sell some of the property to the neighboring property owners on both sides. I'm going to scroll down to the next map. You can see what we look at for this residential area. We've historically been selling it at 50 cents a square foot, but we recognize that this area, that this is the fire department there, and then the grain elevator is up in this area. And then, of course, this is Mr. Freed's trailer park, is looking at this, and based off our information, our research, each one of these colors then when we go to sell it would be offered at a different price, knowing that this land right here is much more valuable than the land that's kind of abutting the residential lots. So we have contemplated selling to the city of Horace a permanent easement. Again, this would be that 50-foot corridor, and it would run down all the way through B, C, and D at 45 cents a square foot. They have been quoted this. I have not heard back if they're still interested in it or not. And then the neighboring property owners could still purchase up to the center line, but we would charge them 5 cents per square foot that would overlay that permanent easement. The city of Fargo has noted that you can plant trees on that and they would permit concrete, but you certainly couldn't put any structures on it. So for the property owners to the south then, let me scroll back up, many of these property owners have reached out to us and indicated that, well, I actually have one that's indicated his wife sparked at him about how much stuff is in the garage, and he'd like to put an outbuilding out here. That wouldn't be permissible on top of this 50-foot permanent easement. However, again, they could put a fence and they could put some trees, but we do need to be cautious of that when we're talking with our property owners about potential putting that permanent easement on there. So looking at this, then again, we would take the swath and we would continue this down and we would sell again to the center line if they're interested, doing the 45 cents per square foot in the middle, and then 5 cents for that, say, the neighboring property owner. And then for the pink area, they would be paying 50 cents per square foot. So I know it sounds a little bit complex. We've tried our best to kind of lay it out, recognizing, oh, I apologize, Eric said there's no trees. So they could put fence or they could put concrete, but no trees. So again, we had some concerns with the neighboring property owners. Would we be devaluing this area at all? Would it be less appealing for the neighboring property owners than to purchase this to the center line or the full area if they knew that the permanent easement was on there? We haven't approached the property owners necessarily because this isn't for sale. And so what Eric's team did in the background is those property owners who have proactively reached out to us, we have their contact information. We reached back out to them and asked them, would they have any inhibitions to purchasing this in fee if there was a permanent easement under it? The ones that we did have the contact information from, they said that they had no concerns. But that's not saying that this is everybody. Did I get everything? Eric, I'm going to give you, I know you're online, I want to give you an opportunity to add anything that I may have missed.
Eric? I just want to note too for Dawn, Commissioner Moser was supposed to be on too. I believe she texted me and said she's on the call, so.
Okay. So open to any, I'm not seeing Eric, I'm seeing Bubble, so it's difficult with the Pexic because we can't hear them. He said, John, Jenny, and I are on the call, but you guys can't hear us.
Okay. Try it again. Eric, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys, but I don't know
Perfect.
if you can hear me.
Yeah, we hear you now, yes.
Okay. I think
Can you hear
Jerry
us?
covered things nicely. I can hear you, Jenny.
Yeah, Jenny, we hear you
Oh my
as well
God.
now.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, technology is awesome. Thanks, guys. Sorry I'm not there in person, but I think Jody covered this well. The only thing I might add is that we've seen permanent easement values range from roughly 90 to 100% of the fee value. And so that's why we had proposed 45 cents for the permanent easement, about 90% of the fee value for the residential areas in this part of the rail corridor.
I'm looking to our engineers. Does this make sense, Bob? Okay. Nathan? Okay.
I have a couple of questions. So can you go back to, they had asked to either purchase it in fee or easement?
Yeah, they had approached us a couple of months ago, originally wanting to purchase the whole corridor in fee. I told them I wasn't quite sure if that would be palatable or not to the Lands Committee to be able to do that, and or if they would want to purchase it just based off the price of that. And so in order to sell it to the city of Horace in fee, we'd need to make an exception to the lands policy.
Okay.
Because again, it goes to the member entities first. The city of Horace is not a member entity. Then it would go to the previous property owner. BNSF has waived their right to purchase any of the rail corridor back. And then it would go to the neighboring property owners. And that's where, particularly in this B area, we have pretty strong indication, at least from everybody on the eastern side, kind of abutting Main Street, that they are interested in purchasing some, if not all, of the corridor. So if you allow the policy to just kind of behave as it's been drafted, there would be the opportunity that they would not be able to kind of purchase the full length of the corridor that they would want without an exception in place by. But typically, if we get an easement in place, an easement in this area would simply be drafted, and then it would go to the Cass County Joint Water Resource District for authorization and approval just through that process. But because and we have easements all the time. Peggy helps me manage the chaos of all the easements across all of our properties. But this is a very unique one just because it's such a wide easement. I did ask about the width of the easement because it seemed a bit wider than our typical easements, and they were able to provide us with clarification on that. But just because I had concerns about its ability to impact the future sale of this property was my biggest concern, and wanted to bring the proposition of an easement to this committee where we typically don't. So just seeking some, and if you have feedback or thoughts about it, that's what we're here kind of looking for.
I am not
Brenda?
their city engineer. I do have thoughts, but I can keep those ones to myself as to which way to go. Okay.
And again, the city of Horace, I apologize, I don't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no,
They are
it's
still considering all this, and they need to take it to the board. We have quoted them a price for the fee acquisition. We've quoted them a price for the easement. I have not heard back either way. It's just difficult for us to bring forward an excess lands policy requesting a recommendation from you if I have 7 different options on there. So if I can just get guidance today when I am able to go back to them, what I'd like to do is give them a deadline when they need to respond to me by. I would expect that I probably can't pull off another lands committee until February. I know everybody's disappointed. You don't get one next month, but it's probably going to be February because we need the resolution with Commissioner Sherling stepping down as our chair. I'd like to have a chair in place before I bring everybody back together. So we'll probably have another one in February where you would actually see a recommendation on this. But if there's any reservations or guidance that you want to provide us as we're communicating with the City of Horace, that would be helpful because we just need a little bit of direction. Otherwise, we're kind of it puts us in a position where it's almost like we're making a decision on your behalf, and really the decision is yours, so.
Okay, Chuck?
I have a quick point of clarification. You said 50 cents per square foot and it says 5. Am I reading that wrong?
So we would do the middle, so if we did this as an easement, this middle part would be 45 cents a square foot to the city of Horace, and then we'll pick on the fire department. The fire department would then pay 5 cents per square foot on top of that
Okay.
to own that, because they would acquire in fee, whereas the city would just get their easement through there. If the city of Horace purchases this, then they would need to purchase the corridor at a minimum at 50 cents a square foot, so.
Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Is there a deadline on their response?
There is not right now, but I probably will need to put one on it. I do get frequent calls regarding the rail corridor from the neighboring property owners. We also have a JT Lawn Services contract out there managing and maintaining this. So my preference would be, because we certainly don't need this property for the project, that as soon as we can kind of start getting this one through the policy, we do. And again, I've had some property owners express frustrations that we don't have this one already out there as an opportunity for them to purchase, but I've certainly discussed with them kind of the steps that we're going through to make sure we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's, so.
It would appear to me that the city has a interest in wanting to have that sewer easement though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably critical to their future planning. So I know they're not a partner in us, and through that, that would take, but now if it was an easement, that wouldn't have to be would that still have to be an exception to our
It does
policy?
not. Typically with the easements, what will happen is we'll get one drafted, and Paul actually helps me with those draftings to make sure those are all accurate and buttoned up. And then Sean Fredericks out on Twitchell represents the Cass County Joint Water Resource District. He's involved with those, and then as soon as we all agree all the languages as it should be, then it'll go forward for approval just at the Cass County Joint Board. But if there were reservations by this committee that you think it would deter adjacent property owners from wanting to purchase it, or you have other concerns, then we can simply decline the easement to them. So, because what we don't want to do, and I've said this many times before, is I don't want nuggets in here, so we'll have to do the same sales process as we've done before, where we can just sell off basically sections at a time so we can ensure that we have access to this property to maintain it. So when we do bring this back to you, it is going to be as complex as the previous three, but certainly we can grant, if you don't have any reservations, then that's fine, we can move forward with that easement. And if you are willing to make an exception, we can draft an exception to bring to the board in February for consideration for a full fee purchase to the city of Horace. Or we can say no to both. So many options.
One of the things I would suggest is if we do look at an easement, not knowing if you'll end up with some remnants, because it may deter. I mean, you just don't know that maybe within the easement, maybe even that agreement states if there's any remnants, they're willing to take them.
Oh, that they would purchase them. That's good, Brenda. Thank you.
So I mean, that's maybe if the easement, if we don't want to entertain selling the whole thing, I think your agreement with them is we'll grant you this easement, but if any remnants are left over,
okay,
you will be required
to purchase them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So it
Eric
might
said
not be
that's a
straight
great
line then,
suggestion,
but-
Brenda.
What?
Eric said that too. No, that is a really great suggestion, and we could probably, because one of the things I do get calls on frequently, if you can imagine, people have been walking and riding this corridor for years. And so I do get trespassing calls down there quite frequently. If there's a lot of snow this winter, the snowmobilers will be down there and stuff. So that's another concern of ours, just to indemnify the board and the joint board of anybody down there breaking into the grain elevator and stuff, is that they could assume some of that for us. That's a good idea.
All right. That sounds good to me, I guess. So at this point you're looking to, I mean, if you would have, if you felt that we would have some concerns about the easement process, then we should let you know that now.
You should let me know now.
I like the easement deal.
Okay.
I think on behalf of, I think Horace too, if they need it, they're going to need it, whether, and this might be the easiest way to, for that to all proceed. And if we can be good partners with them, then I think we should be doing that.
We will move forward with it and then then we'll bring back a recommendation from them. And then just for clarification, general census is you prefer the easement over an exception to the policy to sell it to them in fee. I did tell them you've only made 2 exceptions to that policy. And so it's rare that would occur. And so I'll convey that to them.
Well, and if we do that first, then the remaining land that's there that the landowners would be dealing with, they know what they're getting and what's involved.
Yeah, and there would be certain setbacks where they could actually put an outbuilding. I mean, in that pink area, they certainly could still put an outbuilding, which is what most of them, 2 things, most of them want to put another building in their backyard, and they don't want a trail behind them, is kind of the sentiment I've gotten from most of the property owners I've spoken with.
So again, if the easement option is chosen, then the other plan that you're suggesting would follow the proper course of the
That's
land
correct.
policy.
That's correct. Okay,
I think we can probably just give a head nod
that's correct.
that sounds like
What
a
I'm
way to
looking
go.
for.
All right.
We'll bring a formal recommendation back at the next meeting then.
Very good. All right. Under other business, do we have any other business? And the next meeting date will be determined at some point in the future. So when that new lands chair is chosen. So, all right. With that, we will be adjourned.